Today is about garden pests, unwanted house guests, and how I deal with them without making a frightful mess.
Arriving at Retrospect. Retrospect Station. Doors will open on the left.
Welcome back, passengers, to Retrospect Station, the show where I show you just how colorful life can be. I'm your host, Elizabeth Dean, and last week I blessed you. I'm not going to denigrate myself. I blessed you with a 2-hour-long episode about me having academic nightmarish problems. I didn't really list a lesson at the end of that because I was distraught slightly. I healed. I'm fine. Don't worry. But the lesson from that really is do not shortchange yourself. Just, if there's something you'd like to do, I promise you there's space enough in this world for it without you going by the wayside. Like, there's enough space in this world for you to be the person you want to be. And it really is up to you, but also sometimes falling off of that track is kind of also out of your control in many ways. So, yeah. That was last week's lesson. I can't speak right now. And I also didn't have a word of the week last week. I felt like that episode needed to breathe. So, but yeah, on to happier topics. I'm lying. This isn't really much of a happy topic. It's not a depressing topic. I just hate the things that I'm going to talk about today. And I'm teaching myself how not to hate these things. That has been somewhat fruitful, but also incredibly difficult. So, well, I'm just going to come out and say it. I have a minor version of insectophobia. I no longer run screaming when I see like a fruit fly. That used to be a thing. I would truly run screaming. And I've taught myself over the years to get over it. I used to have arachnophobia as well, but I've also taught myself to get past it. I don't like them. Let's be real clear. I don't want them anywhere on me. I don't want them in my bed. I don't like an insect near me is a traumatizing experience. However, I had to kind of reconcile that at one point because as you grow older and you learn things that you didn't know before and didn't care about before, as you do, I learned when I became an adult just how important insects really are to everything, everywhere, all at once. And that if we didn't have insects, we really wouldn't have anything else on this planet. Like the fact that plants existed without insects is a damn miracle. And if we didn't have insects, we would have so many less plants. Like we would go back to probably, I don't know what era plants existed for the first time on this planet. We would not have trees. I am telling you this right now. We would have those little tiny like yucca plant sized bush things, and that's it. Like we would have little brush kind of individual plants and nothing else. Billion years in the past, many billion years of the past, fish just decided, I'm going to leave the ocean now. The land seems tasty. And then they left. And if we're not careful, all of that will have been for nothing. That's a very morbid thing to think. It's also true. So I'm here today to talk to you about insects. I'm not going to convince you that you should appreciate them. You should appreciate them. I'm just telling you that flat out. Period. I'm here to tell you the trauma I have had with insects. The title of this episode might not have conveyed that. That was the point. I would like to talk to you today about my mother's most loathed insect next to the one she's actually afraid of. I'm telling you today about earwigs. Yeah. Oh, earwig. Let's do some little research here. Earwig. What's the species name for earwig? Order? Okay, wait, hold on. domain, Eukaryota, kingdom, Animalia, phylum, Arthropoda. I'm learning real fast that I hate most arthropods. I hate looking at them. I hate experiencing them. I know they're vital to our ecosystem. That does not mean I have to like them personally. I can just be civil. Class Insecta. Well, you see why I say I have insectophobia. I hate arthropods, which must mean by extension, I hate insects. Infraclass. What the hell is an infraclass? This was not how I learned how to classify animals. What? Cohort. Infraclass. Neoptera. Cohort. Polyneoptera. Order. Dermaptera. What the hell is an infraclass? I have to do some new biology these days. Suborders. Good Lord. Why are there so many versions of the earwig? Earwigs make up I'm reading off of Wikipedia, by the way. Earwigs make up the insect order Dermaptera with about 2,000 species in 12 families. They're one of the smaller insect orders. Not for clarification, to kind of contextualize that, this is a smaller insect order. They have 2,000 species. This is one of the smaller groupings of insects. That is how many insects we have on this planet. And we really would not be anywhere without them. I just have to say, I love you, Earwigs, and all of the work that you do. Stay the hell out of my house. I'm here to tell you today about the earwigs that haunt my house every summer. I haven't seen any yet. Normally by this point, in the beginning of June, I would have seen earwigs, but we've had really weird weather this year, the year of our Lord 2025, and spring decided to early spring decided to take over for most of spring. So up until the end of May, the coldest it got was 6 degrees at night. So I would not really expect earwigs, given the alarming temperature fluctuations we've had. I don't think the earwigs would have had a very good time trying to stay alive. So I'm staring at an image of the female common earwig, Forficula auricularia. I hate these things. I would like to tell you about my experience of the drunk men laying across my living room. So the first time I ever lived in a house was in the year 2022. And that was the first time I ever saw a lot of different types of insects that I've never really seen before. One such insect was the earwig. And, well, let me describe an earwig to someone who's never seen one. First of all, they don't burrow into people's ears. I don't know how the name, maybe Wikipedia has it. Morphology, history, behavior. How did we name these things? Why did we name them this? Relationship with humans. And they do not lay eggs inside the human body or human brain. They have been rarely known to crawl into the ears of humans. So the way that an earwig looks like, it really does look a lot like a cricket. In terms of the type, again, it's an arthropod. It's an insect. It looks like what's the class that they were in? Not class. What was the cohort? Dermaptera. They're just their own thing, man. They don't even relate to anything else. They literally just relate to Insecta, and that's it. Okay. Well, they look a little cricket-like in how they're shaped. Like they've got the body, the abdomen. They look crunchy. I don't mean that deliciously. I just mean they look crunchy. Like if you squish them, I imagined if you were that small, you'd hear them go crunch, crunch. So they have these longish antennae at the front, and then they've got legs that, again, look like grasshoppery cricket-type legs. And they've got a really smooth carapace at the top that has like a middle joint. And they've got, I didn't know this. I saw an Instagram reel or a TikTok or whatever. I didn't know that earwigs have wings. Earwigs have wings. Maybe we could call them earwings, but earwigs have wings, and those are folded in underneath that carapace thing. They rarely ever fly, apparently. They prefer to just kind of crawl around really fast. And then at the back of their body, on their butt end, they have these pincer-looking like feeler, whatever. And those are the things that people used to look at and kind of say, oh, it burrows into your ear, call it an earwig or whatever. They don't do that. So earwigs like to, from my knowledge, earwigs like to hang around kitchens, bathrooms, and living rooms, mainly because there's water and food particles and it's warm in those places. And there's moisture. Like they like moist, darkened places. So they'll hang about around your couches. They'll hang around in your kitchen in the corners and stuff. They'll hang around in the corners of your bathroom or around the doorways of your bathroom. Or around the tub or the sink or something, because they like the warm, dark moisture. So the first time I ever saw an earwig was 2022. And we hadn't moved in a lot of our stuff into the house at that point. So there were lots of large empty spaces. Like we didn't have furniture in certain areas. So there was just the ground floor living room area was just this large, empty, open concept space that attached with the kitchen. And we only had a few bins and stuff. And one day, I don't remember who it was who first found the first earwig, but we didn't know it wasn't a cockroach. I think it might have been my mom, because we lived in an apartment for most of my life, and she lived in apartments for a great deal of her life in Canada. And she did not ever really see an earwig. So she saw this thing for the first time, thought it was a cockroach, killed it. So the way that we kill insects in my household is we spray them with isopropyl alcohol. It kills most of them very quickly instead of using bug spray, which can be a lot more toxic. A lot of the time we'll use isopropyl alcohol. Is that fully safe? People say no because fires and whatever. Like, you don't drown them in it. You just spray them a little bit with it and then you wipe them up. That's not really that dangerous. But so she sprayed it. And then she picked it up she managed to pick it up or collect it in a jar, I think, without touching it, like with the lid and stuff. She got it in the jar and she closed it. And then when I woke up, she was like, you need to look at this insect and tell me what this is, because I've never seen this before. Is this a cockroach? It doesn't look like a cockroach, but it looks like it's related to cockroaches. So I come down, I look at this thing in the jar, and I'm like, I have no idea what the hell that is. So she asks our contractor what this thing is, and that's earwigs. They live in this area, because our contractor apparently lives close to where we live. And so our contractor also knew what those bugs were. They'd seen them for years on end. So he informed us, this is an earwig. They live in this area. We see them every year. Okay, cool. That's delightful. I don't ever want to see them again in my house. They are the laziest acting bugs in the whole animal kingdom, in my opinion. Like you've seen pill bugs, you've seen slugs, you've seen all sorts of creepy crawlies. These are the laziest bugs on planet Earth, in my opinion. And I called them the drunk men across our living room floor, because that was mainly where we found them all the time. We'd either find them at the front door, or we'd find them inside on the living room floor. And when I say they're like they were drunk men, I described them to my mom as saying it's like they act like just drunk men spread out across the living room floor with no aim, intention, or purpose in their life. It's just they're there on the floor. And it's because they wouldn't hide in corners or go close to the posts or the walls. They would just stop in the middle of the floor, wherever they felt like. Just, I am here now. I almost stepped on one because he was just in the middle of the room, there, sprawled out, sleeping. So apparently they're active at night. They do all their crawling around and eating and stuff at night. And in the day, they're mainly inactive and just they're lazy. They nap about. They're like drunk men. Like they act like a drunk man who came home from the bar and passed out cold in the middle of the living room floor, right where he was standing. That's how they behave. And they have the audacity to just be there on the ground, no intention, in the middle of my pathway. So like I was so aggrieved by these things because I was like, they're not like spiders that hang about in the corners or on the ceiling or in strategic locations. They're not like flies that cluster in corners or cluster around food or organic material and stay in that spot. They're not like centipedes, which dart around like God's forgotten creations in the dark and then hide in corners and in underneath things where they can't be discovered. They're not like ants, which crawl along baseboards and through floorboard cracks and along grooves. They just stop dead cold in the middle of the floor, and I have stepped on one. It was the most horrific experience. I have stepped on an earwig barefooted. So my solution was first my mom's solution, which was to just spray them. Now, some of you might be saying, why didn't you let them outdoors? I have insectophobia. I have a problem interacting with insects, wouldn't you know? I barely interact with moths to let them outside. I don't kill moths. And spiders. I don't kill spiders. I have such a problem trying to interact with insects. I wish I really, really wish I didn't. I would love to not be, I would love to not be afraid of insects. I would love to protect them. I feel the most cold fear throughout my whole body when I encounter a bug. So we killed them. I'm not proud to say it, but we killed them. So I would first, my solution was to spray them with isopropyl alcohol, like my mom does and like my dad does. And then I did that one night, and it was the most revolting mistake I could have ever made. So when earwigs are scared, they're like stink bugs. When a stink bug is scared, it stinks. It releases the most offensive smell. And in the hopes that you'll leave. And I understand entirely because I really wanted to leave. Earwigs apparently do the same thing. Now, stink bugs, when they stink like... I've smelled stink bug stink. It's like a combination of poop and some really awful, like, stale coriander. Like, they smell real bad. But they smell offensive. That's like the major word to be using there. They don't smell bad as in like disgusting, I'm going to throw up kind of whatever. They just smell offensive, like really offensive. That's a stink bug. An earwig, I would say, does not smell offensive. An earwig smells revolting. There is a very big distinction, and I do not understand how stink bugs earned the name stink bug when this bug does this. So when earwigs are scared, they also do what stink bugs do and let out the most appalling stink known to man. Well, I woke up one night to get water and came downstairs, and I see this earwig, and they're big. Like, they start out small at the beginning of the season, like maybe as long as the first joint of your first finger. And very quickly, within like 3 weeks, they become as long as the first 2 joints of your finger. And then by the time that you're in midsummer, they are nearly the entire length of your finger. They're long bugs. And the males are very skinny and pointy, and the females are fat and wide. And I hate it. So I come downstairs and I see this male earwig scuttling. Like, they scuttle like they are floating on water, like along the wall. And just at the corner of the kitchen wall. I'm like, I can't leave you here. So I pick up the spray, like a bottle of, like we have it to spray in a bottle. So I pick up the bottle of isopropyl alcohol to spray him, and I spray him. Well, obviously it's going to sting or hurt or alarm him or whatever. It did. And it didn't kill him because he was now big enough to not be immediately affected by the spray, which alarmed me because I don't like torturing insects. I'll kill them, but I don't like torturing them. And because I was like, oh, it's not dead. So I sprayed it. And he, in his fear, must have been in the process of releasing the horrific stench to scare me off. And because he kept moving, I was like, this will not do. So I went and I got a shoe and walloped him, and he became flat, and he was very squishy after that. That was one of the worst things to do, because when I lifted the shoe and washed it off, and he was there flat on the floor, he smelled. I nearly threw up. He smelled like a combination of the bitter, sharp, chemically smell of isopropyl alcohol combined with the worst poop you could have dropped in your toilet and dead meat. I didn't know that earwigs smell like rotting meat until that moment right then. It smelled like rotting meat, isopropyl alcohol, and the most offensive poop ever to grace your nose. And I nearly threw up. It was so bad. And since then, my mom has also done something similar and sprayed him. And she was like, there is this horrific smell and I can't place what it is. And by then I had my experience with the insect smell of the earwig smell. So I told her, no, that's how earwigs smell when they're scared. They're like stink bugs. And now both of us are utterly repulsed by these bugs. This did not deter us from killing them. We're still probably going to feel like killing them. I'm going to try my best this year not to kill them. When I see them, I'm going to catch them and put them outside. But there's a lot. Where I live in Mississauga is apparently, observably, earwig central. That's where they live. That's where they reside. That's what they do. They just hang out there. I don't know if my neighbors have earwigs as well like that. They probably do. We made it worse at one point. Because the next year, when winter passed that year, after the first earwig season, we had the door filed at the bottom slightly because it was catching in the door frame, the front door, so that it would open and close easily. But that was because the house shifted. And so when the house shifted back in the summer, there was this little tiny crack under the door. There still is now because of that. And it lets in a little tiny draft. It's also just the right size for earwigs to crawl through. So they do. And so last summer, how many summers have I lived there now? 1, 2, 3. This is going to be summer number 4. The second summer, we had so many earwigs. And I said it's because we have the hole in the door. They were everywhere. On the walls, on the ceiling. Oh my God. And at any point in time, you would hear me going around the house. I can only imagine how traumatic this must have been for the rest of my family. Every single day, like at least once, you would just hear the sound of a rubber sole slapping a surface with methodical precision and breakneck speed. And it's because I was crushing the earwigs as soon as I saw them. I'm saying I'm not proud. I'm not encouraging you to kill earwigs. I just can't. I feel like I'm suffocating when I see an insect. So we were like, we need to find a way to get rid of these things. Now, coincidentally, that summer, we had an ant infestation. There was a piece of baseboard that was wet in one of the bathrooms, and a bunch of ants came to methodically disassemble it. They did. And so we had an ant treatment. We got rid of them. It was fine. We had the perimeter sprayed a bit so they wouldn't come into the house. And it worked. It also kept the earwigs away for a little while. And so this was year 2 of us dealing with the pests that live in a house. I say pests. They belong in nature. It's just they're considered pests once they come indoors because they can do a lot of property damage. Except for earwigs, they can do psychological damage. Then the other bug that I discovered last year was cockroaches. Now, I'm not saying I discovered it as in I've never seen it before. I've seen cockroaches. I have a story about one. You'll hear about it at some point. But there were these really small cockroaches. They weren't the big, long ones, like the forest cockroaches. They were like the little mini, again, the length of your first joint of your first finger. They weren't that big. But they make a noise. Their wings make this noise. Ugh. It's so alarming. And so I'm here to share with you that first, my experience that earwigs are the drunk men that live around my living room. I hope not to see them in my house this year. But they behave like drunk men. They just sprawl out wherever they want, on the ceiling, on the roof. It's like they stopped mid-sentence, midway, mid-breath, and we're like, nah, here, this is good. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not moving for the next 8 hours. I'm right here. They're like decrepit couch potatoes. But I've managed to get around them. Like I said, I don't like killing them. I don't like having to, I saw the word ovipositor on the screen that has earwigs, and I just hate that word. You know what? Hang on. Attention all passengers. We interrupt the story to bring you a special announcement. Literacy is at an all-time low these days for reasons mainly outside of our control. So what better way to do my part than to give you a word of the week? This week's word, big surprise, is ovipositor. And ovipositor is spelled Ovipositor. Ovipositor, and Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines it as a specialized organ, as of an insect, for depositing eggs. That's it. They stick them in somewhere, and they leave a bunch of eggs, and then whatever happens in nature to that bug happens. Some of them die, some of them explode, some of them continue laying eggs later on, who knows? Nature is weird. But an example sentence of ovipositor would be, due to Bill 5 being aggressively passed through, there are now economic zones in which there are no Ontario laws, and businesses can do whatever they want. And as a result, insects will no longer be able to thrive. And that includes females being able to use their ovipositor to deposit eggs in safe places where they can grow up into lovely baby bugs. Ovipositor. Please, for the love of God, write a letter to some MP. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Okay, great. Welcome back. So I figured out how to avoid these insects, and I want to share that with people. I think it would be good. I think it's it'll make for a positive experience, I think, and it'll also be a good thing for the environment. We figured out how to keep away insects from inside our house, and it took nothing more than garden herbs, honestly. So what we planted, I bought some plants last year, and I kept them by the doorstep. The moment I bought them, the earwigs stopped coming. Like, they existed. There were a few. We imagined that those were the ones who found their way into the house and were living there. But after those ones had died, there was basically no other earwigs in our house. And the rest of the summer last year remained that way. We didn't have any earwigs. And so we were like, well, what does that mean? Does it mean that did we spray or, well, no, not all. And we were like, so wait, are the two connected? The two might be connected. So we played around with it, where I moved one of the plants and we saw some earwigs elsewhere, but not by the plants. And so we realized really quickly, hey, I think these plants keep away earwigs. Now, there's nothing on the internet for certain that says garden herbs keep away earwigs, but clearly they didn't like being around them and their smell. So, garden herbs it is. I'm going to tell you the herbs that I used. I'm going to tell you how I planted them, because there is a way to do this without being an eco-terrorist, and there is a way to do this and resultingly being an eco-terrorist. Please do not do the second option. So last year, when this worked, I had by our doorstep basil, sage, catnip, and mint. And first I had basil and sage. And I thought, well, that's good. I have that, and I had a little flower. The flower didn't do much, I don't think. And we started seeing less earwigs, and so clearly something was working. However, a new problem arose where once it got hot enough and dry enough, I started seeing cockroaches. And they would hang out in the soil by my sage plant. And I mean, the sage plant was dying, I think, because I forgot to water it a few times. So ultimately they were hanging out because there was dead leaves and a bit of detritus and then this dead plant. And I was like, I physically and emotionally cannot handle cockroaches. So this has to stop. And so instead what I did was, not instead. And so what I did to keep them away was look up what keeps away cockroaches. And they were like, oh, rosemary, because rosemary's sharp and they can't crawl around on rosemary to cut them open. Mint keeps away a lot of pests, including mosquitoes, cockroaches. They just don't like the smell. And catnip apparently keeps away, I forget which one it was, ants, garden slugs, something. There was something where I was reading the article and they were like, well, when you get this plant, beware of this bug. So you're keeping away the cockroach with rosemary, but then this bug likes that plant. So to keep away that bug, you need this plant. And so it became this long line of me just getting different plants. By the time I was done, I had everything except for thyme, Thyme, not time on a clock. And I, this year, did the same thing. Because I found that as soon as I did that, there were suddenly no bugs anywhere to be found. Now, either that means they're hiding, waiting, biding their time for an ambush, or I was successful. I think it's the second one. I think I was successful. So this year, from the very beginning of the season, I planted in planter pots. I didn't put them in the ground. I highly suggest you do not put them in the ground. You can put sage in the ground, you can put basil in the ground, and you can put rosemary in the ground. I do not suggest putting thyme in the ground because thyme likes to spread out. And I absolutely warn you, do not put mint in the ground. Mint is an invasive species up here in Mississauga. Do not plant mint in the ground. It will grow without bound and no restriction. It will take over your lawn. It will take over against other plants and it will kill them. Do not plant mint in the ground. It is highly invasive. I think some species of sage are also invasive, but they don't grow as aggressively. So you could potentially plant sage in the ground and get away with it for a season. You'd also have to dig it up, which is a bit of a pain. So I put these in planter pots, and I lined them right outside like the doorstep of our porch, landing step, whatever, in front of our door. This year I have rosemary, mint, basil, sage, thyme, and catnip. The stray cat in our neighborhood did attack the catnip, which was unfortunate. However, I don't see cockroaches, I have not seen earwigs, and I have not seen any ants. No, I've seen a handful, but they were like the ones that are going questing, and they didn't survive. And if you do see an ant in your house, you should kill it. You should not let it run around. Because the ants, the individual ones you see coming into your house, are there to collect info as to whether or not there is available food. if they survive, they will go back to the nest and tell the other ants that there is food. And then you will have a line of ants coming into your house. So if you see an individual ant in your house, you must kill it. That's fine and dandy. This is a short episode. Again, I tortured you with a 2-hour episode last time. But I want to leave y'all with something. Like I said at the beginning, it's the first week of June, and there are no earwigs in my house. And this is the first year that there are no earwigs in my house. And at first, I was kind of like, oh, thank goodness. And my mom has been celebrating since then because she hates seeing them. I'm now worried. Like, I thought I'd see some in May, but I especially expected seeing them in June. And we haven't seen any. Now, again, I could just be right and, the herbs keep them away. But we've had a really rough spring. And the herbs that were supposed to grow did not. My basil is nearly dead. Excuse me. My sage is somewhere between death and life. Some days it perks up and other days it's not. Again, the cat attacked the catnip. So it looks like it's been shredded within an inch of its life. The other plants are fine, but because the other two are hardy, rosemary and mint are hardy. Thyme seems to be okay. Like it's a bush. It seems to have some sort of resilience, but so I don't have a hope that the earwigs are being kept away by some good fortune of the plants that I've planted outside. I suspect it's a worse reason, and this is the more alarming thing. I said I hate insects. I don't like touching them, being around them, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, without them, everything and everyone is going to die. So, and that's not saying lightly. It's not like, everyone's going to die. We have stories written about nuclear apocalypses and aliens coming to Earth and always attacking America for some reason. We've written all these stories, and we take such emotional heart with them that these are like big things. Like if someone said North Korea could launch nukes at us at any time, we'd probably take that really seriously. We'd probably freak out a little bit and be like, well, I don't want that crap happening. The fact is that it is more likely that most of us are going to die because of the extinction of insects than somebody dropping a nuke on us. And it's not even like a balance of likelihood. One of those things is severely more lethal than the other, and it's the loss of insects. Like a bomb, war, these things do not kill as many people as insects dying do. So just say like, oh yeah, I hate these things anyway. I hate them, but we do need them. If we don't have them, we're not going to have food. We're not going to have plants. And without food, we die. Without plants, we don't breathe. So we're at this stage. I've not seen a single bee. Now, I've said this to people, and people have been like, I've seen bees. Good for you. But I live in a grove where I have had insect problems the past 3 years in my house, and I've not seen a single bee. There are flowers about here and there. There are dandelions galore. I have not seen a single bee. I've also not seen a single wasp. I've also not seen a single hornet. I grew up seeing bees constantly. I grew up seeing wasps and running from them constantly. I have not seen a single bee. I have not seen a single wasp. Yesterday was the first time I saw one single moth. I grew up seeing butterflies everywhere. It creeped up on us slowly, and we have not clued in. There are no more insects. They're gone. We barely have any right now. They're gone. So I was somewhat celebrating not seeing earwigs in my house, but I was also, and I still am mourning that I'm not seeing any earwigs in my house. I would much rather see the earwigs and fight with them than see not a single earwig at all anywhere, not even on the outside of my door, hanging around the walls like they normally do. Where are the bugs? I don't want to see cockroaches. Cockroaches hanging around houses are usually a bad sign in general. It usually means that there's dead leaves and stuff around that shouldn't be there. But earwigs being native to where I live and not seeing them, there should be earwigs. There should be butterflies. Where are the bees? So I kept them away with plants and stuff, sure, but the fact remains that they're not anywhere, and that's really worrying. And this might be the first summer in a long line of summers to come without insects, and I'm sad and I'm scared because when those things die, the plants they pollinate die and the birds that eat them die. And when those things start to die, listen, we went to school in this country. Most of us who are listening to this went to school here and came up with our textbooks here. You all saw the food pyramids. Like I'm not talking about our food pyramid for what we're supposed to eat. I mean like the, it's not called a food pyramid. What is it called? Food system? Food web. Yeah, no. Yeah, food webs and food systems and food pyramids. We've seen these things. The pyramids with the predator at the top and the different animals going down towards the plants at the bottom. We've seen them. I hope that lesson stuck with some of us, because when you take out one of those things from the pyramid, we set the whole thing out of balance. So welcome to the 6th mass extinction, everybody. But no, if you want to keep bugs away from your house, it is really, truly as simple as getting as many garden herbs as you can. I recommend planting them all in pots so that you can bring them inside during the winter and set them by windowsills so they still keep growing, but that they don't die in the winter. You can leave rosemary outside, but everything else should come back indoors. But I suggest planting as many garden herbs as possible. I also recommend planting as many wildflowers as possible so that you can get bees. And in general, this is a good thing for everyone to do because it means we'll all get accustomed to planting and soil again, and getting your hands dirty in mud and getting your hands dirty in a planter pot and understanding how plants work. This was common knowledge for most of human history, and the fact that most of us don't know about it is actually very unusual and alarming. So, yeah. That's my little shtick for this for this week of the first week of June. Happy June, everybody! Happy summer. It's exhaustingly hot outside. I will say this: this has been the first season of Retrospect Station. I started it in April, and I think I'm going to put an end to the first season on June. What date would it be? The last one will be June 18th, and then I'm going to go on break for 2 weeks. Have I been inconsistent before? Yes. And I think it's because I need to take a step back for a very brief moment. I just kind of plan out what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do that. And it allows it allows me to have a break when I need a break. And I should have a break at least in between here and there. So I'm going to say that the last episode of this season is June 25th. And then the next season is going to start on July 9th. Yeah, July 9th. And the new season will come with more gusto, and I'll know more about what I want to say. And I think I'm going to find some more, how do I put this? Exciting ways to frame these stories. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to kind of sitting down and planning a whole season. Last time I did the planning, I just planned out a month. But yeah, I think I like the idea of sitting down and kind of planning a whole season in a different way. So yeah, that's what's happening with that. What else was I going to say? I would say tune in next week. If you don't listen to these mainly, listen to next week's. Next week's will be fun. For me, there'll be some stuff in there that I'll just say there's more to it than just a podcast next week. So, what do I normally say to say goodbye to you? Do I have anything else to say? Not to my knowledge. If you feel like donating to this podcast at all, you can hit me up at coffee.com/retrospect station. That's fi.com at retrospect station / no. That's not how any of that works. ko-fi.com / retrospect station. That's the URL. If you want to follow the podcast online at Retrospect Station, if you want to follow me online at AstroAlex34, if anyone wants to tell me what they feel like the next season should look like, all of my 7 listeners, I love you. I mean, you can hit me up, message me on Retrospect Station, like on either on Instagram or TikTok. Send a message to at Retrospect Station if you have an idea. Excuse me, if you're a friend of mine and you want a certain story discussed, do that. I have some in mind that I know I'm going to say for sure, but yeah, I that's about it. Thank you so much for staying with me and listening. I'm going to try and get some coffee in my body, and I will see you in the next one. Smooches, bye.
Special thanks to the Mississauga Library Makerspace and Hazel McCallion Library. Without their resources, this show would not be possible.